Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cryosphere Pavilion. Our next session is on the theme of bridging communication gaps in Arctic collaboration and research. This will be led by the Association of Early Career Polar Scientists. So please, and there will be a panel discussion and there will be a few presentations. And Victoria is going to lead the session, so please go ahead. Thank you.
The video is there. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's panel on bridging communication gaps in polar contexts. This session is proudly presented by the Association of Polar Early Career Scientists, or APECS, an organization which is dedicated to empowering the next generation of polar researchers. APECS supports early career scientists with resources, mentorship, and opportunities to connect with broader polar research community. Our goal today is to explore the bridge and how to bridge the communication gaps between polar science, policy, and public. And we are honored to be joined by both early career and senior researchers and activists. So important note, our VCRs travel to COP29 was supported by the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation's Polar Initiative and Alfred Wegener Institute Penn-Post Center for Polar and Marine Research. So I'm pleased to introduce you our panelists, starting with three members of APECS. Celine Rodriguez is a PhD candidate in international relations at Universidade Nova de Lisbon. Her primary focus of the research is about Arctic indigenous peoples, and it evolved into the importance the region has for Portugal from geopolitical and security perspectives, maritime and human security. Tamiri Sauda, who is here presented also in person, is a biologist and paleontologist with a master's degree in technology and environmental science from the Federal University of Triângulo Mineiro, Brazil. Her research explores how the climatic changes of the Eocene, which transformed Antarctica into the vast ice as it's today, affected these organisms. Currently, she is preparing for a PhD program intended to investigate the adaptive responses of past animals to contribute to solutions and strategies that could help mitigate current and future climate change. And then Dr. Gita Plakal is an early career marine scientist from Kerala, India. She's promoting projects related to global warming and climate change mitigation, sustainable agriculture and aquaculture, women and child empowerment for making a better world. She's the director of World Alliance for Internationals and active member in many worldwide organizations and international networks. And we have our extra special guest. One is Pamela. Pamela is documentary photographer and explorer from Mexico, who has built a body of visual work and campaigns around climate justice and gender equality. She has co-founded several initiatives, including Visa One World, Latinas for Climate, and most recently Climate Words. She's also an Arctic Angel with Global Choices, a network of 70 young climate activists raising awareness for sea ice melt and caring for a 10-year moratorium on exploitative activity in the Central Arctic Ocean. You will tell us about that later. We also have our senior panelist with a lot of experience, Vladimir Vasilyev, who is the executive director of the Northern Forum, who leads efforts in Arctic collaboration. The Northern Forum is an international non-governmental organization that unites governors of northern regions. It serves as a platform for non-political dialogue between the governors of northern regions from different countries, leaders of municipalities, and organizations. Welcome, everyone. So maybe we can also have other participants with us online this week. As we begin, I would like to start with some fundamental questions, which will be understanding the barriers in communicating polar science as essential, and like how to find effective solutions to that. And I want to start with a question from Celine.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Celine.
Good morning.
So we will
Good
be able
afternoon.
to see you soon at the screen. Meanwhile, I will start with a question. So your research links Arctic indigenous knowledge with geopolitical and security concerns from a Portuguese perspective. What unique challenges you've met in communicating of the intersection of insights and national security interest, particularly to audience which is further away from the Arctic? Would you like to
Yes. Hello. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. So thank you very much for the invitation, and it is really interesting to have this conversation. So from my perspective, I have to say that when I decided to focus my research on indigenous communities, it was because I had the opportunity to know a little bit more about the work of Mary Simon, who is Governor General since 2021 in Canada, and she has been one of the persons who led at the time the negotiations for the Arctic Council back in 1996. And so it was thanks to her and to her work that I was able to dip a little bit further in the knowledge of indigenous communities, Arctic indigenous communities. And what I understood throughout my work is that it is not something that is considered exotic in Portugal or any other country that is considered to be far away, but it is also considered a bit different and far away, even for Arctic countries. So the South do not know the North, what is a bit strange or was strange at the time. But when we look at the news and we see that Norway just apologized last week to the Sami community, it confirms that there is still a lot of work to be done. And in what concerns Portugal, it is also interesting now that I am deepening my research more in Portugal and the Arctic. It is also interesting to see that in the past, Portugal had some relation and had some activities that were similar to Arctic indigenous communities, like whaling hunting. So maybe when you go back in the past, we see that it is not so different than that between, in this case, the Southern Europe and the Arctic indigenous communities. And maybe we have more similarities than we think. We just have to remember that. We just have to look at history and what kind of relation were built in the 15th, 16th century. And in what concerns fisheries, Portugal and Greenland and Norway, there is also a huge relation regarding that. So it is really to try to bring those similarities and those relations back to the discussion to really understand that Arctic communities are not so different, and we need to really learn while we still can with them, because everything is changing for a while for them, but also for us. And so we are starting to reach a point where we all need to learn together how to adapt to those rapid changes. And so, yes, it is really interesting to communicate those histories and to communicate why traditional indigenous knowledge is relevant, not only for them, but to all of us. And obviously, it depends on who you are talking to. It depends on whether the persons you are trying to reach are interested in the topic. And we know that if we have policy decision makers, if they are not interested in the topic, it can be much more difficult to reach them and to make them understand why it is important. So we need to work on that kind of communication and try to understand what kind of language we can use and what kind of histories we can present so they can better understand why they are so important to us.
Great, Celine, thank you very much. It's great that you touch upon this connectivity in geographies and both in histories. Samiris, you also work on connecting history. So you work with Antarctic fossils, researching this climate resilience with optic and connect them historically, what was happening there nowadays. What are the main challenges for you to explain that to non-specialists, to bigger public, and how do you articulate that? Would you like me to share this?
We can have the geographical difficulties because here we have the map from La Meseta Formation, which is in the Peninsula Antarctica, and we have this long location with Brazilian because it's a huge country. And here I bring some fossils we have there, some gastropods and bivalves. So we have the geographic difficulties, but we have the cultural difficulties too because when we talk about climate change in Brazil, we always talk about Amazon and other biomes we have, and they never connect our problem with the poles. And we know as a biologist and a scientist, we work with this topic. We know the connection, we know the earth is everything connected. So this is a difficulty we had. And we had the weather too because it's a hot country. So how can we explain to the kids? Oh, we're talking about 0 degrees. They don't leave it that. Only when we open the fridge. So it's difficult to explain that to them. Other thing I write here is when we talk about paleontology, all people talk only about the past. We never do this connection with the future or the present. Sometimes we can connect when we talk about the birds, for example, that's great example. But when we talk about the Antarctica, for example, which in the past was a green country, it's a little bit difficult to them. So now this white country. So this is a challenge, but we can use this as an opportunity too, because we can use these fossils, these huge fossils, for example, the dinosaurs, the trilobites, and the other giant insects to do this connection and start the conversation. So we can show them the earth changing and the life changing, and now it's changing again, but we have this possibility to stop this changing. And we have these people, we are directly affected by these huge temperatures. It's changing. I don't know if you guys understand. But we know in the huge scale, sometimes we in Brazil maybe are not directly affected with the smelting thing, but we know all are affected at some point. So we try to do this, and I want to explain more after.
Okay, just a few more maybe slides.
Yeah.
So that was the Antarctic.
That's a bivalve I bring to some edge. This is a mold from bivalves we have there. And there we have the preserved cells. So this white part, these are the fossils preserved, which we can do some analysis and understand how the water of the ocean, the carbonate parts can be helping to bring them and build the shells. And here I bring this to do this connection with the Patagonia part because we know this part was connected. And everything is white here in the shell. So during the ocean, everything here was ocean, a part of the ocean. And here there is another fossil from Patagonia. So the fossils we have, the both regions are very similar and show how the biota lived there. And some species we have today, and they are recent. time specified.
Thank you very much. It was very, very informative. Yeah, but I would like to go now to Pamela and ask you, as a visual storyteller, from your campaigns and expeditions, which challenge do you meet when you would like to share this experience from these expeditions with the bigger public, but you would like to be probably also accurate scientifically in, yeah.
Yeah, I think as a communicator,
Can also share a few pictures from your expeditions.
this was from my most recent expedition with the Explorers Club and Adventure Canada. We went to Greenland and Arctic Canada, and I can talk more about the importance of including Indigenous knowledge later. But for now, the importance of communicating the science in an accessible way. I think oftentimes, like seeing it from my communicator and talking to my friends who are scientists, their programs don't prioritize communications. They they don't fund a role for someone to do the communications for them. So a lot of the time, they are the ones that have to do their research, their paper, and on top of that, move it to social media, make it accessible, and because of that, it's not prioritized, and it's just like they don't have enough time to do everything. So, as a communicator, I would say for those research centers to include girls in communication. And another point would be to make the language obviously accessible, bring it back home. I think, again, from someone who's not from the Arctic, we a lot of times we can't relate to what it is like to be in a cold environment or to for our livelihoods to be shaped around the ice and the cold. So how is it affecting us in other regions? How is it affecting, I don't know, in Latin America? Is it sea level rise? Is it ocean acidification? What do the effects of the Arctic look like?
So you are doing this mediation job, connecting all that and communicating to the bigger audience. Here are a few more of the slides.
Yeah, that was in Greenland.
Thank you very much. Very beautiful pictures. Thank you. Maybe we will continue to the next point, to speaking about the local experience and knowledge and how this should be and could be incorporated into knowledge. And Celine, you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you the next question on your experience working with indigenous communities. So, how do you think you can best incorporate indigenous perspectives alongside scientific knowledge to ensure that there is this comprehensive understanding of Arctic issues?
Well, first, it is obviously important to have them on board. And one of the things that I always expressed in my research is that I'm not talking on their behalf, but instead I am trying to be another voice. I am joining them so that the communities, not only in the Arctic countries, but all around the world, can get to know them. So I'm not trying to say anything that they are not able to say, and I'm not trying to have their place where they should be. That's not it. It is really to try to empower them. That's the goal when we are talking about indigenous communities. And I think it is really important that we are aware of it. And another thing is that if we are not able to have them on discussions or in preparing some kind of documents, then we need to be able to work them in order to have their insights, to have the feedback of what is being elaborated, of what is being presented. Because if the intention is not to talk on their behalf, then at some point they need to join when we want to present something. And so it is really important to have their presence. And I think that one of the things also that could be important for APECS, for example, is really to try to understand where are the indigenous young researchers in different countries in APECS. If they are not, then what is missing? Why they are not joining this platform and this association? Because it could be helpful also for them. They could join us. And so what can we do to reach them? Where can we reach them in the Arctic countries where APECS is present? And what could they bring to the discussion? And I think it is a starting point if we want to focus on a smaller scale. Then obviously when we keep growing in the scale, then the United Nations has already said that traditional knowledge is also recognized as scientific knowledge. It is to be placed at the same level. And so we should not be questioning that anymore. And so it should be something very natural to happen, to have them at the table. And still, we feel that it is a bit difficult. And we know that they are being requested a lot lately, that they have a lot of work to do. And sometimes they also have to select where they can be, where their presence is really effective and useful. So I believe that they also have to select all the requests and invitations they receive. And so, yes, it is also important to have them to explain why everything is connected, because talking about the Arctic is talking about the role it plays in the system, the functioning of the Earth system. It is understanding that the ocean and the ice have a specific role in it, and why it is important, so that we don't witness what we are witnessing with so many floods, with so many fires, with so many doubts. I mean, there's so many things that we need to really express correctly, and they can help us because they have for some time already this experience. As we know, they have not been heard. The Arctic countries are also working on that, and Canada, because of my research, can be considered a leader in that relationship between state government and the indigenous communities, Arctic indigenous communities. And so, yes, there is still a lot of work to do. And maybe as early career researchers, there is something that we can try to change by bringing them into the discussion, by having them part of the association, and also trying to have more forums and participations where natural and social researchers can be together, really to try to find a common language and try to find a unity within the scientific community. And it can start with the early career researchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Celine, for bringing this really important questions and ideas and thoughts on this inclusivity in science as well. And of course, I think it's a great question for now. Where are these indigenous people? Why they're not so often in these organizations, in associations? Maybe I just saw uniquely a lot. Vladimir, maybe you would like to tell a bit more about Northern Forum and how you also work with local communities, and not only local communities, but indigenous peoples in your work.
Okay, yes. Hi, everybody. It's interesting that APECS has some challenges with indigenous youth engagement in activities in the youth science in all region. Yes, the Northern Forum is an international organization, and we are just used to combine all Arctic regions, all over the Arctic, from United States, Canada, Northern Europe, and Russia. But unfortunately, last 3 years we are coordinating just Russian part because of this Ukrainian war, etc. Just geopolitical issues. But we work a lot with, of course, with indigenous communities on different levels. We try to help them in yes, this is just what we are, just a little bit. Oh yeah, I can do something. You see that Northern Forum is the observer of the Arctic Council, and we are observers of course UN framework on climate change. and accredited in UNEP, and we have agreements and cooperation with many organizations, not only in Russia but abroad. Just Roscongress in Russia helped us a lot to organize this in huge platforms like as St. Petersburg Academic Forum, Eastern Academic Forum. Just previous speakers mentioned about some kind of forums, additional events where we can work together. So just the structure of our forum is improving every year. It was very simple for the governors, the committee of regional coordinators, secretary, and working groups, that's all. So that now we just try to involve business companies, and then created the Northern Youth Forum with Arctic Youth, and established goodwill ambassadors institutions. And this year, 2 months ago, we created also school association, just in secondary schools from many Russian regions and Mongolia. And 2 years ago, also created this Russian Asian Consortium on Arctic Research. Because of University of the Arctic, International Arctic Science Committee stopped any cooperation with Russian Federation. So just we now moving to via Asia we are just starting to be global regional organization. Why we are here, why we try to strengthen Arctic voice, regional voice here, and to listen other parts of the world. Because the Arctic and the climate in the Arctic is changing much faster than in the rest of the world. So, 2-3 times faster as AMAP is reported. So just we have to find new collaborations, new communications, new interactions with any countries in the world, and try to do something together, taking into account that international polar year is coming in only in just 8 years somewhere. Time flies. So we have just passing generation, older generation. We would like to share our experience, our knowledge, to help the young generation to be more active internationally and globally. And if you have some not problem, but some requests or some challenges with indigenous communities involvement, we can help you with that. Because just there are many associations of the native people. 6 permanent participants of the Arctic Council, Sami Council, Inuit Triple Council, Atapasca, Gwich'in, Aleut International Society, Raipur in Russia. Of course, they have some difficulties in communication, especially Raipur and Western parties, but Northern Forum is very neutral organization, absolutely neutral. So we try to create many neutral platforms, not only in Russia, but also abroad, to organize discussions and to create some friendly atmosphere. That is any kind of conflict not stop maybe, but minimize, and we can find some solutions for very friendly cooperation. Just this is, as I mentioned, about this Russian consortium. We have more than 20 universities and research institutes from Russia, China, and India, and some Asian countries also have interest to join. In December, we will meet in St. Petersburg and hope that members of our consortium will grow up significantly. Just about 20 universities are in line now. So just I just quickly use Northern Youth Forum have a very good activities. They work mostly in Russian Federation yet, but they have a very good project on the Arctic startup that is now federal project, supported by federal ministry, and they provided very good funds to them. So just our youth started to to get some fundraising work. So this is also very positive things. And then some platforms also created this form of association and consortium of northern territories in TOMS every year in April. We organize there any kind of station. If we would like to have youth station, no problem, absolutely. And this year we just started, last year we started just country forums. Last year we worked in Mongolia, and this year in May we worked in Harvard, China, organizing the business and scientific forum. And would like to continue this practice here at the book platform. We agreed with Indian guys that in March, mid-March, we will go to India to organize some business and scientific forum. So the Asian countries can come to India, join us, and we will talk about youth engagement, etc. And the chair of Arctic senior official, Mr. Morgan Pilwin, was here, and he supported our ideas to organize country forum. And just we started to organize Arctic youth conferences, exactly scientific conferences. The first one was organized in Khanty-Mansi. Russia and many young scientists just came to Khanty-Mansi, and they now just started to expand their network within our Russian Asian consortium. So just one of the main platform is the Northern Sustainable Development Forum in Yakutsk, in my hometown. So every September we will meet. We are meeting here. So just it's the main, just a few examples. What platforms we are creating to assist widening partnership between any countries, any societies, organizations, etc. And if, of course, again, it's quite interesting to hear here that traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, is becoming very important and trustable. I remember that several years ago, when about 10 years ago, when the Arctic Council prepared biodiversity report, there were a very hot discussions. We just invited native communities in the Arctic, and they organized many observations. When the snow is falling, with the reindeer, how is the reindeer migration routes changing, with the first ducks came, and the fundamental scientists were very opposite. I began to trust this data. It's not just, they are not researchers, they are not scientists. Their data are correct. So just after long discussion, disputes, finally, very good portion of traditional knowledge, observation, traditional native communities observation were included into this huge report. It was our small victory with the Arctic Council. So just we can, and now just many scientists already say traditional knowledge is important. Yes, of course. Because the people who live on the land, they face all these changes every day in everyday life, and they can just only just write something about that. That's all. It could be very, very good. So just now, just in, for example, in India, secondary school started to how to say, to create some nature calendar, everyday calendar. So just we started to collect these data also. So we can be very useful for APECS, and APECS would be useful for us. I think that's all for now.
Thank you very much for a lot of information and a lot of knowledge. I can imagine that you can tell even more about what
I am the typical guy.
And definitely traditional knowledge is something to rely on that on the other side, their lifestyle is also being transformed recently and drastically, probably. Maybe Pamela, you can also elaborate a bit on that. You were documenting also the community-driven perspective, what is happening right now in Arctic. You've been to Alaska and Canada, working with these communities. How you as a visual storyteller, how you communicate with the bigger public this change of lifestyle, what is happening within these communities?
Yeah, so I didn't document what is happening to them. I just collaborated with them on the interconnectedness that Arctic has to the rest of the world. But even with that, I think it's, it's beyond the environment. It's a type of livelihood. You can talk about it more personal than I can, but it goes beyond just the melting of the ice. It's their cultures, their traditions, their way of living as a and I think it's also important to remember that that is something that is not only happening in the Arctic, but it's happening all over the world. The climate change is putting at risk like who we are as people, who the traditions that we grew up with, that our ancestors brought to us from generation to generation. So that is something that I looked into with this expedition, and yeah, I guess focus more on the cultural side of things to make it more personal to the audience.
And then communicating with the viewer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there any feedback loop when you have some feedback that you can transfer back to the communities?
Yeah. So the feedback loop, I think the biggest one would be that we use that knowledge, that traditional knowledge, those personal stories that they shared with us, and added the scientific work, and we're collaborating with them on schools and communities to share that with them. But I mean, it's also things that they already know, so nothing new.
Previous slide.
Yeah, I think it's the more impact is outside the Arctic to like communities in the US, schools in the US and Mexico, outside of the region where they don't necessarily see this connection. So the Arctic, like they already know all that.
Very important aspect. Thank you very much. Gita, can you hear us? Gita, can you say something, please? We cannot hear you yet. Maybe you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Gita, maybe you can elaborate a bit more on your ocean literacy work, how you explain to the bigger public what is happening in the ocean, in the marine ecosystems, what you do for that. Which challenges you meet in elaborating this information?
Here. Hello, Victoria.
Hello.
Pardon me. I didn't hear what you saying now.
Yeah, I think it's a bit loud here. I will repeat. So you involved in the ocean literacy, and maybe what is your approach translating the scientific data to the general public? How you work with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's as a communication leader or something like that in a LinkedIn influencer or a ocean literacy advocate and a nature lover and earth lover. I am very passionate about communication via the social media, and I am always using some approaches or some strategies to bridging the gap between the scientific data sharing or the public's understanding and everything, and communicating in its way that is relevant and meaningful and provide perspective for the study. And just like we use some clear language to describe the science. Sometimes use non-technical words when possible, and define the jargons needed. Carefully review our chosen language also, and sometimes tell stories and transparent and accessible communication, and to build trust in public or the community or the people. And sometimes we can use some decision tree analysis or tools to help the decision makers or community people to evaluate the options, some calculate outcomes and the potential of that or outcome of some projects, etc. And sometimes such research accessible to public via open source, something like that. It will be helpful for publics or communities to understand easily. Sometimes it may be available in a free of cost or low cost method, using sometimes, for example, American Association for the Advancements of Science are providing such facilities for the public and the communities and the easier or early career researchers to use the scientific knowledge sharing to communities or access the data and everything for their projects and activities, etc.
Great, thank you very much. Maybe you can give us also information on your work as eco-influencer. You have a lot of followers on many social media channels. How do you communicate all the scientific knowledge there?
Yeah, it's actually social media is like a good tool to communicate the scientific knowledge to the communities or the public, and it's actually a good way to communicate with everyone around us. I mean the non-scientific people and the public in a good way, and breaking down barriers. That is allowing scientists to share the findings directly with the diverse audience or the readers. That is the one important things in that such a communication and bridging the gap. That means between the scientific community and the general public by translating the complex concepts into the accessible languages, and we can allowing them to learn something in a unscientific way, in an easily way. That is a combating misinformation. And also the social media can help scientists some combat misinformation and promote evidence-based thinking by leveraging their expertise and credibility. And sometimes we need to make some brand for sharing such knowledge in some platforms or social media. We need sharing some genuine things, and always double checking before something sharing to the public or the communities to know. Please, we need to avoid the misinformation, and networking and collaboration with the different people and organizations being bring lot of opportunities to participate in different projects, such as paid and also the volunteer type projects. And based on, for example, my activities and projects, I am a LinkedIn influencer and eco-influencer, climate reality leader, international invited speaker, and ocean advocate for ocean literacy. Based on these activities, I got many invitation to involve many projects around the globe. I'm already part of different projects, more than 10. And I have memberships and ambassador for the organizations, more than 25 organizations, or near 30. Okay, and we can use our expertise and the scientific knowledge to improve the life of the community around us, the society. And one important project I recently joined is the climate change mitigation projects. That is ORSS, that is Oceanic Restoration Submersive System. And the other project is Oceanic Restoration Cooling System. These two projects are very important for a sustainable future for the ocean and the whole world. And these projects are helpful to increase fish population and restore coral reefs by cooling water around the system. That system can automatically cool the environment, the surrounding water. And all these projects are supporting the climate change mitigation. And similarly, every ECRs and other scientific youngsters can move forward to involve in such projects globally. It will be helpful for the climate change mitigation and also the community development and a sustainable future for all. Thank you so much, Victoria, for asking questions.
Thank you very much for your elaboration. As we're moving to the end of the session, I would like to go to the topic of building a framework for future collaboration. And I would like each of you, give a brief answer for the question that what should be the tools for the young career researchers to work on expanding their collaboration with some other fields outside of their expert field. How they should communicate and collaborate with some other fields and medias and so on. Celine, would you like to start with this question?
Well, yes, from my experience, and this is a starting point for this answer, because I am now focusing on the connection of the North Atlantic and the Arctic basins and how it will affect Portugal. It is, for me, obviously, this is my personal perspective, and not everyone thinks this way. But it is relevant for me to really have knowledge from oceanography, glaciology, biology, to really understand what is happening in those regions, why we are seeing those movements, and why the future scenarios are saying that we will have an Arctic ice free ocean. So, yes, for me, it is important to have this knowledge to really understand what the present look like and how it will look like in the future. But this is me, obviously. I would like that everybody thinks the same way. I would like that everybody has the same opportunity of learning from each other. I think that even for natural scientists, it is important to understand the work done by social scientists. And specifically in the Arctic or in the Antarctic, in the poles in general, I think that we should discuss more with each other. We should share more with each other what we are doing, our research, explain better what is happening. And I have to say that I love to listen to Professor Stefan Ramstorff that explains the AMOC situation, because it also helps understand what can happen to the world and to the Arctic Ocean. It might freeze again in the future if it collapses. And if it collapses, it means that the other elements and tipping points then will fall down like a domino effect. And so we need to be aware of that, so that policy and decision makers can also take better decisions. And so we need to be able to meet more often and to share more often what we are doing. I think that this is really important to try to then find the right words to communicate. And I know that IASC is already working on that, try to bring natural and social scientists together and to try to find a common language, an easy language, not only for policy and decision makers, but also for society. Because they are also very important. They are willing to change. They are willing to do the right things for the future. And we need also to give the right information. As Dr. Greta was saying, we need to sometimes double check the information we are sharing to be sure that we are giving the right information. And so that policy and society in general, and even NGOs or other companies, because it is about everyone. The thing that we need to bring everyone together is not only governments, is not only the public sector, it's also private and communities, indigenous and non-indigenous. And so this is something that it is in the paper, but still really needs a lot of work to be put in practice. That's what we see. And if we, as a smaller community, scientific community, were able to try to put this in practice, then I think this is a goal achieved. It takes time also to change minds, but I think that we all have to benefit from each other and what we are doing each other. We are not competing in scientific community. We are collaborating with each other. So this should be what we should be able to transmit. This should be the right message, and hopefully in the correct way, so everyone can understand what is happening, why the ice and the ocean are so important in the Earth system.
Thank you, Celine, very much. It's a very great point. Families, what advice you can give ECRs on expanding their collaboration to improve their research? 2 minutes.
Okay. I think explore the curiosity. I think curiosity is the base of everything. Because with curiosity we can be a better scientist and we can do a better science communication. I think that because we can do a better questions and we can connect it with the indigenous, with the kids, with the politicians, and we can help them to see how important it is we found together a way to have a consensus and to find a way to reduce the temperatures. I think that's curiosity of the camp to explore.
Really great word, curiosity. Yes. Thank you. Vladimir, maybe you want to elaborate a bit more on what such organization as the Northern Forum can do to support this early career scientists in these cross-cultural and interdisciplinary collaborations.
Yeah, just, I have mentioned already a few examples of platforms we are creating just, to help everybody to have more communication with each other. And thanks to pandemic, we just we used a lot just online resources. It was crazy years that we are sitting just online every day. So just a lot of communication between, but it's only just started to disappear. And we can talk to anybody who we would like this to do. Just WhatsApp and can we have a meeting and just online with students. We can organize any kind of online meetings anytime. Just if you would like to meet with regional governments or native communities, it can be done very easily. In Arctic Pavilion, for example, one reindeer herder just connected COP29 from his traditional houses to having the satellite internet. So just it's good options and the information technologies are just developing very fast. We have artificial intellect, etc. So everything can be helpful, can be useful, and the Nota Forum can create even additional platform for users, APECS, and if you will send some project proposal or something like that. If you would like to have more connection with traditional native communities, we can organize it. We're having many cooperations with Native People's Association. Not only just huge Russian association, but exactly the Future Association, the Venke Association, Danish Association, etc., separately. And our working groups, different working groups also work on many directions, starting tourism, just quality of life, quality, just transport, etc., reindeer herders, just so just what you would like to do with either Arctic. The Northern Forum is ready to provide any assistance. We don't know exactly what we can propose for you because just our theme and topics change every day. We can work one day in healthcare, then the children, then school, science, education, transport, volunteer work, etc., industry. So a lot of topics just our brain just sometimes, but it's our job. Our job is just to help everybody to find each other and to do something good.
It's great that you're connecting everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for that. Pamela, would you like to elaborate how you see these visual narratives helping also young career researchers in achieving their goal in communicating science? And maybe you would like to explain a bit more the moratorium is explode. explorative activity in Arctic seabed.
Yeah, and just to talk about connecting people a little bit more, I think something that is very important is the interdisciplinary collaboration. So not only science but also indigenous knowledge and communicators. I think that trio is a very strong that is a very strong yes set of skills that can really make a research strong enough to go beyond the paper but into people expand. Yeah, and on the moratorium, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the 10-year moratorium that is proposed. Yeah. But it's a 10-year moratorium, basically, and asked to not touch the central Arctic Ocean for 10 years while we kind of tackle climate action. And as a pause on any extractive activity, anything that from mining to transport, any industrial activity, put a pause on it for 10 years while we take climate action and also while we see how climate change is going to affect that region. Because if we just go and take advantage of the warming temperatures, melting the ice sheet, and do just whatever we do to make money, it can tackle or turn on feedback loops that are going to be irreversible. So it's an ask for countries to not touch that region since it's a region that we are all allowed to touch, but instead of touching it, let's protect it for at least 10 years. That's that.
Sounds like an Arctic treaty, finally.
Exactly.
Thank you,
Countries
everyone.
need to join
Yes.
Yes.
and to sign
Thank you,
it.
everyone. Yeah, I think you can also check for more information at the website of the Global Choices. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Other
quick question. So more to do with the language diversity here, and I know that the BRICS countries met in Murmansk earlier this year, and I work in education, and so the next level where language becomes very important. And some of the output from BRICS, even if I look at it, right, it's easier to work with the West. But if I look at Brazil, India, Russia, China, so linguistically diverse at a school education and university education perspective, how do you look at, communicating and transferring that knowledge, which is more often than not documented in English, coming down, at a lower age group in regional languages? How do you deal with it?
Are you
I don't know.
I can speak on that.
Yeah.
So one of the projects that I'm working now is Climate Words, which is a dictionary of words written by frontline experts.
Right.
And we get them to define it in their own words. And the way we're tackling this is by actually collaborating with the local organizations, local communities, for them to help us translate the work that we've done into their language, into not only the literal language, but also the terms and words that they use. And so again, it just goes back to really collaborating with local, going to the ground and finding those projects. And a lot of times they're small organizations, so it's not going to be anything fancy, but they're doing the work and it's very honest work. Yeah.
And do you go back and measure the impact of what's happened, and you find that more effective?
Yeah, climate literacy is actually correlated to climate action. So someone who is climate literate is more likely to take 3 times more action than not. So yeah, there's a few research papers connected to that, and it is something that the more people know, the more likely they're going to take action.
great when you speak here about connecting small organizations into bigger body. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Just about language, that yes, when we promise to organize your connection with the indigenous people communities, for example, in Russia, they don't speak English. Unfortunately, most of them, a few ones can speak English. So just the Northern Core has an interpreter team, and we can provide this interpretation. The Russian English is simultaneous interpretation to some instrument we also have to help in connection. So just it's very brief comment.
Thank you very much. So as we wrap up, I want to thank all of you for participating in this panel discussion. I think, again, very great ideas. So one of the main thoughts, collaboration, very intense collaboration of different fields. What I hear from all the sides of organizations, and what I also liked about you saying going beyond the paper, how to go beyond the paper, how to communicate the science with bigger public. I think maybe some of the questions are still open, or there are a lot of ways to do that. Maybe some of you would like to stay in contact later and discuss it a bit more. Thank you very much, everyone, also who joined us live. Thank you, guys, here for leaders for organizers.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Wait, girls, let's take a picture together. Don't disappear yet.